Dominic King of the Daily Mail is on the line. Dominic, obviously we've been talking a bit about Everton there, and we'll talk to you about Liverpool in a moment, but just your thoughts first on Seamus Coleman. 10 years yesterday to the day that that bargain signing was made, so Everton have definitely got their money's worth. Are we entering the end of days for Seamus Coleman at Everton as a starter, or is there a second act to come here?
I wouldn't like to be the one to say he's finished. I've seen Seamus develop over the last 10 years, and I've just been listening to what Mark's been saying, and he had it absolutely spot on. I think Everton had the best two fullbacks paired in the country for a spell. That injury that he received was absolutely horrific, and what he did to get back, and the form that he showed when he came back at this time last year was absolutely magnificent. Now he's hit a spell recently where it's not been so good, where he's struggled he looked like his confidence is being hit, and I think there's been sections where of the crowd getting on his back. But what is he? He's not 30 yet. I think he's still.
I think he's just 30.
He's 29. I think I think there was going to be a point after coming back from a long-term injury where he was going to have a blip, and I hope he gets through it because he's a great lad. He loves Everton. They've made his life for him, if you will. You know that he came from Sligo, Killybegs, and it's a proper old-fashioned story, isn't it? You don't hear of those transfers anymore, where for a nominal amount of money someone comes and then becomes a household name, and he's been absolutely fantastic for Everton. What a servant! I just hope this is a different form and not something more progressive.
Yeah. Just a quick one on that, Dom. Sorry. At the weekend, Everton, they played a back three with wing backs and a back five, if you like, and Coleman was obviously distributed as a right wing back. Do you think that was a method specifically by Silva to get the best out of Coleman as a last-ditch attempt in this current lull of form to try and make sure he stays in the starting team? And then when perhaps it didn't go so well for him at the weekend, I think it was Saturday they played, then obviously he got dropped for yesterday.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's a difficult question to answer that because it's been a bit mix and match at the minute with Everton. At the minute, you don't really know what Marco Silva's going to do from one game to the next. And they're a team in a sort of I'm not going to say like a sort of spiral of lacking confidence, but the last month has been dreadful. The performances haven't been good, and He's looking for ideas to try and make things happen a bit better for them. They were awful yesterday. They didn't deserve anything from the match. And I don't know whether they've had 4 games in 10 days, and maybe Seamus was feeling the effects of that. I think all will become apparent when they play Bournemouth in the next Premier League game. I think he'll make changes against Lincoln in the FA Cup on Saturday, but until we see them again in the Premier League, I don't know what we could say, whether he's going to revert to a back four, whether 3 at the back is going to be the way to go, because he's taken Yerry Mina in and out, so there's nothing settled at the minute, and that's what he really needs to do.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we were just chatting before we started this piece about what the strategy long-term for a club like Everton should really be, and whether or not this is the right manager to take the club forward. And I'm making the case that at some point Everton need to decide somebody is the right guy, and they're going to give them the opportunity to work this stuff out, to kind of learn a little bit on the job, in the hope that they develop into a Pochettino or somebody at that level. From the sounds of what you're saying, I'm not sure that maybe they've got the right man at the moment, or I guess the wider question is, are the club inclined to look for somebody at the moment?
Oh no, I wouldn't think to be looking for anyone at the minute. They went through a big process to get Marco Silva, and they're obviously still in wrangling with Watford at the minute over compensation and whatnot. For how he left and what the charge that Watford levelled against him. Everton couldn't keep Farhad Moshiri, the major shareholder. He couldn't start sort of acting on a whim, and as soon as things go wrong, make a decision to get rid of someone, because he's already spent 35 million in severance fees since he's been at the club, and that's the road to the poorhouse. They could not carry that on. It was only 5 weeks ago we were writing pieces about how things were looking up for them, how they'd been on a good run, and they'd drawn at Chelsea, and the form was getting better and better. And listen, they're having a bad point, and they have to address it. It would be ridiculous to sort of start making knee-jerk assessments. And I've seen some of it on Twitter last night from supporters saying, "Oh, he's not the man. He's not the man." Well, he's had 6 months, and there's still a lot of players that need to be changed and a lot of things that need to be addressed. So, this season, he should be given this season to show what that he can, that his plans can be built in the long term. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Let's move on and talk about Liverpool, because they find themselves in this remarkable situation where they've got a massive lead at the top of the Premier League table. When we all assumed that there was going to be a title race this year, it would be them trying to stalk Manchester City. But Man City's wobble has happened, and Liverpool have been able to exert the full advantage from that wobble. What's going right for Liverpool at the moment?
Well, everything really. Full of confidence. Every player that he's playing is in form. They've had no injuries. Touch wood to the real core players. Of a Salah, Van Dijk, Alisson, those type. The tweak that he made to his team to play 4-2-3-1 rather than 4-3-3 has paid dividends, because they look sharper and the more of a threat in the area, and everything is going really well. And they've come through. Whereas I was just talking about how bad December's been for Everton, for Liverpool, it's been the stuff of dreams, because they've won every game through to the Champions League last 16, and the lead they've got in the title races is very, very encouraging indeed.
Yeah, the formation change has been fascinating, really, going from the 4-2-3 to the 4-2-3-1. And Roberto Firmino, prior to the Arsenal game, people were saying things like, well, Roberto Firmino's form is off, but you could kind of accept that, and the fact that his a sort of different position allowed perhaps Mo Salah's form to take a huge upturn. And then suddenly Roberto Firmino goes out and scores a hat-trick. So literally everything is going right for Liverpool at the moment. Yeah,
well, it's interesting on Firmino. I was looking at his figures from last season after this many games compared to this, and there's a very sort of tiny discrepancy in terms of goals and assists and whatever. I mean, people had said that he's been out of form and maybe not having the influence in games that he should have been. But if you look at his numbers in terms of how much he's running, how much he's on the ball, how many chances he's creating for his teammates, it all stacks up to last season when we were saying that he was one of the best in Europe. If he's starting to click now, and he's starting to have an influence in this position, then that really is a sign that Liverpool are going to be potent, because he's fabulous. I think he goes under the radar. I mean, this might sound a daft thing to say, but I think he's probably one of the most underrated world-class players in the game at the minute. He doesn't get the headlines that he should have because of Salah and Van Dijk and Alisson and one thing and another. But he was immense on Saturday, and he looked from the first minute. You could see that he was ready to go. And if he's going to build into a run of form, then Liverpool are going to score a lot more goals.
We were kind of speaking off air. I was kind of musing as to what are the odds on Fernandinho to win Player of the Year, because by his absence he's been talked up to this status of being perhaps Manchester City's most important player. And there may be an element of truth in that. Certainly you take him out of the team, Manchester City's results dip. Do you think there's a player in the Liverpool team that if they got injured or they were absent, similar to Fernandinho, where they have a good player to replace him, but that player, like Ilkay Gundogan, can't fulfil that position quite well, and the results would subsequently dip?
I wouldn't want to tempt fate, but I would say Van Dijk. Van Dijk's had an extraordinary the first half of the season. I've not seen a Liverpool central defender play like this for 30 years. Going back to the days of Mark Lawrence and then Alan Hansen. He's absolutely magnificent. He did something in the game against Wolves on the Friday before Christmas where he sort of gave Adama Traore a start and sort of sauntered alongside him and took the ball away. That was just absolutely magnificent defending at its best. He's such a calming presence. He's got. You can see the way he plays. He makes everything happen at his own pace. The team have got such confidence in him as well, and if anything was to happen to him, I would think that they would be. You would see an impact on the form, but Jurgen Klopp and everybody will be keeping the fingers crossed that he's there right until the bitter end.
We were wondering if the squad was big enough to compete in both the Champions League and the Premier League. I mean, all those fears have been allayed somewhat over the last few weeks. But, as the season progresses, if they continue to have the lead they have in the Premier League at the moment, I mean, that question kind of looks after itself. It's like, well, we can because we have a lead in the Premier League. Yeah,
and that's, it's important to stress that point. I think it is only a lead at the minute. There's an awful long way to go, and I think people need to remember as well about there's obviously huge excitement about this because it's a long time since Liverpool have been in a position where they've had as good a chance of this as winning the league. But Manchester City, when they first won the title in 2012, they came back from 8 points behind with 8 games to go. So there's a hell of a lot of work to be done. But in terms of the second half of the season, I really can't see the Champions League being too detrimental, because if they're to go all the way to the final, it's only another 7 games, which is effectively only the group stage, and that's spaced out over 4 months rather than 2 and a bit. So it shouldn't. And they've played the bulk of the Premier League games now as well. So I wouldn't have thought tiredness or fatigue or anything like that should come into it, because Klopp's managed the squads quite skillfully, and he's got lots of options now that will give him will give him the ability to freshen the team up and not impact on or dilute the quality that he's bringing in. So they will be able to attack both prizes, I think, and I wouldn't like to hear them start talking about fixture fatigue, because I think they've got through the hardest part in terms of scheduling. I really do.
Yeah, it like when you look at City and you look at the Guardiola teams over the years, they tended to be brilliant front runners, but when in league campaigns in particular, when other teams got at them, stayed with them, and got a bit of a lead, then they've got easily distracted in the past. Certainly his Barcelona team didn't win the league every year. Mourinho managed to turn them over, despite the fact that they were clearly the superior force at the time. There's just a sense that sometimes that his teams are preoccupied with things other than just winning the game. And I don't know, this season has the bang of that actually this might not be a 2-horse race. If Liverpool beat City and open up that lead, like, it might just be Liverpool's to lose for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it will. 10 points would be massive. 10 points really would be massive, because that would mean Liverpool having to lose 4 games and City winning everything. And I couldn't see that happening. I think Liverpool have only lost 3 since October 2017. So I can't see them losing 4 in 4 months. I might be wrong, but let's see. But no, you're right about Guardiola. He either wins the league by a street. I was going through his records with Barcelona and Bayern Munich, and the winning margins were either 9, 10 or 19 points. They were all massive wins. The only one that was a bit different was I think it was 2011. Barcelona won by 3 points. And that was the only time he's really been in a fight and come out on top. But he's going to be in a fight now. Make no mistake about it. And if Liverpool were to go to the Etihad and win, and let's again stress this, that's no cut and dried thing, because City are going to throw absolutely everything at them and more. But if they were to go there and win, then they couldn't wish to be in a better position.
Dominic, great stuff. Thanks a million for joining us, and Happy New Year to you.
And a Happy New Year to you. See you soon.
Dominic King there from the Daily Mail, obviously on the Merseyside beat, covering Everton and Liverpool.
The thing is,
go on.
The thing is, Liverpool could easily lose this title, and people are like, oh, they bottled it again, and they might well not bottle it. Like, it is highly dependent on the Manchester City resurgence, which you suspect is coming immediately. It was that blip that they had, and it was down to the absence of Fernandinho. It was down to other factors as well. Like, first of all, getting pretty unlucky. Second of all, I also want to make the point that it's kind of bizarre to say this given the talent they have in that department, but a number 9 in the guise of someone like Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was just absent. Someone to just be in the right place at the right time, like Pique Aguero, and eke out a result like that. But perhaps that's not what Guardiola wants. Like, he was, I wouldn't say he was grilled in the press conference after Leicester, but he was certainly questioned numerous times about his philosophy and if he would be willing to change it given the current predicament. And he was like, absolutely not. There's no question. There is no way we're ever changing this.
Yeah, he's right to. He's right not to.
He's totally right in general.
Whether or not the team is flaky, is there a flakiness in that team at the moment? Where does that come from? Because there seems to be a little bit. You're saying it's down to bad luck, and is the 34-year-old central midfielder really the only thing that's holding this together? Is that the little bit of sticky tape that?
Well, I couldn't agree more that whole thing has been overblown. It was a large factor, and he has been brilliant this season. Like, he was particularly good, I thought, against Manchester United a few weeks back. Like, it's I don't know. There's more factors than that for sure. And maybe, like, if you were going to tell me that there was going to be one team that was going to crumble during the Christmas period with the build-up of games, I wouldn't have said it was going to be Manchester City.
We did talk about the flakiness before Christmas. We should come back and dig that out.